You guys, welcome back to Contest Prep University. I'm Joe Klemczewski with Adam Atkinson. We are in episode number 5. I think it's 5. Don't hold me to that. But in our contest management series on how to mitigate any kind of problem you're having, we left off discussing what if you wake up too soft, how to determine if that's from too much carbohydrate. Are you spilling over? Could it be sodium? Could it be lack of sleep? But what if you just see that softness come in throughout the day, meal to meal? And I would say, Adam, if you have done your job and you woke up the way you were supposed to, you can still see increasing softness throughout the day because of maybe still having a little bit too much sodium or a little bit too much carbohydrate, maybe a little too little activity, being on your feet too much. What are all the things that you consider if you see a client that was looking fine, all of a sudden they send you photos, it's like, whoa, this person is really losing some sharpness?
Yeah, the first consideration that makes a really major impact, because this would be a show day scenario, sometimes my clients will not salt their food on show day, just like they have all week. And usually kind of what we're describing right now sounds very similar to sodium flat to me. And especially if meal sizes have been according to what you've seen during the week, that can be a problem. So maybe increasing sodium. Like you'd said, if someone, I see this with my girls, they'll stand around and talk to a group of girls for almost hours backstage, and they're really using energy, possibly releasing stored glycogen just by, standing around. So it's nice to get people to sit down and relax, and I'll just nudge them and say, hey, let's go sit down and let your body relax a bit and see how you look in 20 minutes. But also making sure that you're just not overfeeding them. Maybe we hit that ceiling so high Friday night that we don't need a whole lot more food. So I might go some more protein only meals, protein with a little bit of fat just to sustain hunger versus pushing carbs up anymore that day.
And that's another reason to always know the exact context. So you can't just look at a photo without ascertaining exactly, why they're looking that. So I'm always asking, what did you eat? When was your last meal? What was it? Where are you on the schedule? Are you keeping up with your water? Have you been sitting, standing? You mentioned even monitoring. Are you urinating a lot? Is the color clear? I'll give one story of when it was just pure too much food for a meal. It was one of my best pro appearances. I was in the I believe it was the Pro American Cup and down in Texas. And I was in my best condition ever. And I mean, I know I'm very carb sensitive. So I kept my carbs at 100 grams, 7 days in a row, no loading. It was kind of an experiment. And then I thought, okay, it's Saturday morning. I'm super tight. I'm ready to win this thing. Now let's load up. So I got a steak and some hash browns, which may be like an entire cup of potato, which may be fine for some people, but I consumed that meal, so happy with myself. I knew I was going to kill the show. An hour later, I lift my shirt up, and it looked like I was 20% body fat. And if you're not an ectomorph, you don't know what this is like. But if you're an endomorph, you know how quickly you can change, and spillover can be that dramatic. I could literally, from barely having 2 or 3 millimeters of skin on my abs, I could almost just grab a handful of goo. Obviously, it wasn't body fat. But what I had to do, as you said a bit ago, Adam, is just I had to stop eating. Like, that was way too much food. I had 3 or so hours before I was going to be on stage, and I just had to hope like hell it was enough time for my body to assimilate that. So I got busy walking. I stayed warm. I went outside where I could sweat a little bit. And thank goodness when I got off stage and got our photos and all of that, I had reabsorbed all of that in time. And so it was 3 hours of unbelievable anxiety, but I had to mitigate carbing up too much, even just from one specific meal. So is that, you ever have to deal with anything like that with a client, Adam?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a client who spilled very easily as the day went. I had her eating barely any food for show day. Tanning company, the guy was a big shot and thought he knew what he was doing, and had my client eat 7 rice cakes, which was probably 50% of her carbs for that show day. I had her carbs very low on show day. So she did that, and she ended up spending about 40 minutes walking around the venue because she just was soft after that. So we ended up kind of rescuing that, and we never used that tanning company ever again. But yeah, that was fun.
And that's just that, that's why it's so important to know how much carbohydrate you need, how much you're used to. Make sure that your glycogen levels are where they should be, so you just don't have to over rely on carbohydrate on contest day, especially if you're that sensitive, as I was, particularly for that contest run where my carbs were a little low. So thanks for that, Adam, and thank you guys for watching and listening. We got a handful more in our contest day management series, so keep watching and listening.